What up, though, y'all? It's your boy Shane G. We are here once again with OTI, Open to Interpretation, right here on the Ethos Media Network. And it's been a crazy week. A lot has happened. Elon Musk took over Twitter, and they say that the N-word usage went up 501% the day of. We have, unfortunately, the passing of Takeoff from the Migos. So what we're going to talk about today is social media and the lack of empathy and the lack of accountability a lot of times that takes place. And I don't necessarily mean legally, but just as far as feeling like you can do things online that you would never do in real life. But before we get into that, we're going to drop that clip for you. Let's go.
John, thank you. We moved to national headlines for you this morning at 7:20, a developing story out of Houston, Texas. TMZ is reporting rapper Takeoff, a member of Migos, is dead. The 28-year-old was reportedly shot to death at a bowling alley in Houston at around 2:30 this morning. TMZ says Takeoff was there with Quavo, another member of Migos. Sources say someone started shooting after a fight broke out. Takeoff was pronounced dead at the scene. Two other people went to a hospital in private cars.
And now the really disgusting thing before, I bring the homie Twan on is the fact that video was put out almost immediately of the dude laying there dead. Quavo runs up, tries to pick him up because he's in shock that his family member's gone, and people are just standing there with cameras ready to post it on the internet. So with all that being said, let me bring the homie Twan on. How you doing, bro?
How you doing, man? I'm doing okay, man. Blessed to be alive. Saddened by that young man that lost his life. Saddened by the state of humanity, bro. Like, that's just the honest truth.
Yeah, man. I feel like, I was close to dropping a tear this morning when I saw that, bro. Like, it was, and it's not like because I'm just overly a fan of the Migos or, anything like that. It's just like, I don't know, but it, because we've dealt with this for so much over the past couple of years, young rappers dying, getting killed specifically. I don't know, man. It just hurt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. It was a tough pill to swallow, especially as the information starts coming out and you realize that he was just a bystander to caught a stray bullet. Like, they wasn't even shooting at him. He wasn't directly involved in the altercation. It was really like a wrong place, wrong time type of situation. And the thing that I be trying to tell a lot of the youth and like a lot of people in general, that's an old saying is, man, a bullet don't have no name. A bullet don't care about the money you got. It don't care about any of that, man. It don't care if you male or female. It just does what it's supposed to do, which is be destructive. And unfortunately, we live in an era where some men aren't even masculine enough to just fight and take a win or a loss. Like, everybody immediately wants to draw guns, shoot people dead. And it's just sad, man. It's just super sad, man. It's just super sad. But I am extremely, extremely, extremely disappointed with people who choose to record death and murder and capture that energy and share that energy. I got to call it what it is, man. That's demonic, bro. Like, that's some crazy demonic shit. Like, you're literally sharing the moment somebody took their last breath, and like having people watch dead bodies. It's no positive energy to come from that, bro.
And to piggyback off that, I don't even understand it when it's this type of situation, right? Because it's not like, for example, when they show police murdering black people, we don't necessarily like seeing it, of course, but I understand why it could be useful. You know what I mean? It could open
absolutely,
because it's like, out of sight, out of mind, basically, right? Like, if you don't see the death and you only hear about it, it's easy to push off. But when you start seeing it, it's like, okay, now
absolutely,
it kind of feel like you got to do something. You know what I mean?
Yep. And to piggyback off of you with that one, that's a completely different situation, because that's African Americans and minorities basically trying to tell the world that we're not the boys that cry wolf. Like, this actually happened. See, we told y'all this been happening to us. Now we have video evidence of it. So that's a totally different situation, which I get.
exactly. But when it's
you
just
know what I like in that too. I
and
like in
getting
that
into
too.
it, it's like that's just a public lynching that you just showed, pretty much, or
I
just
was just about to say I liken that to Emmett Till's mother leaving the casket open. Like, no, I want y'all to see the brutality that happens to our people. I want
right.
you to feel it. But when you're sharing videos of that young man Takeoff losing his life, you're just perpetuating a demonic energy, man. I'm gonna just call it what it is, bro. The shit is like demonic, man.
And where do you think that comes from? Like, do you think that it's just
I'm gonna
like
be
because
honest. You really don't want my opinion on
well,
this, and
I just want to lay
I'm gonna say
I want to lay a few possibilities out there, and I want to see what your thought is. But one strain of thought, I guess you could say, is that people shock value. Like we human beings have been attracted to violence forever. That's why gladiators was a thing. That's why UFC is a thing. Boxing, football. You know what I'm saying? All these like high contact or just flat out fighting type sports. That's why they're popular. That's why violent movies are popular. All these different things, right? So you could argue that just because it's violence that you're able to capture and the way media is, everything is, pretty much from the phone now, that's a way to quickly get clout. What do you say to that?
what clout are they really getting? And that's the part that being a psychology major, it's such a deep psychological thought when you think about it, because what clout are you really getting? You're never going to get more clout than these big blogs. You're never going to get more likes than these big blogs. All you're going to get is a repost. The first person like, oh, I saw it here. And then once it goes to somebody else, they repost it. So the clout that you're getting is so temporary and ridiculous. And social media has created this urge or this fear of missing out, where you got to feel like you got to be the first to post some shit. And it's the thing that I think about that's so crazy, right? And I just want you to think about this. It was a crime committed on camera and somebody recorded it and recorded somebody losing their life, right?
Right.
Now imagine if I went outside and I saw a man raping a girl and I just recorded it.
Right. Exactly. That would be disgusting. And everybody pretty much unanimously would agree with that. So what's the difference is what you're saying?
What's the difference?
I agree with you. What do you think about as far as us just being desensitized to violence in general? Like, what would your thought be on that? And maybe that's why people are a little quicker to post it, because to them it's almost just like, and I hate to say it like this, but like it's almost like how back in the day, if you ran into a celebrity and you'd be like, yo, let me get a picture with you. Or you just caught them out in public, like, yo, is that such and such? And you took a pic from across the mall or whatever type shit. Like, is that almost the equivalent now?
No, I don't agree it's the equivalent, but I definitely agree that we're desensitized to death. Like, we're desensitized to violence and we're desensitized to death. But part of the reason we desensitize is because they keep sharing it and they keep sharing it. And I'm gonna be honest, man, like, I hold the people who, because it's a process that goes through it. You have to literally record it, then you have to literally post it on whatever platform you're posting it on. So there's two steps you have to go through where you have a chance to be like, I'm not going to post this because it's just not in good taste. But I feel like nobody really has coof no more, and nobody has sympathy or any empathy for somebody's family. This is the point I'm making, right? That happened at 3 a.m, right? It was videos posted by 3:30, right?
Right.
Imagine if, I don't even know if Takeoff has kids, but imagine if he had kids that are social media age. And the first thing,
he's got nieces and nephews, because we know that
Offset has kids. Yeah, so that's the point I'm making. Like, imagine his mother. What if his mother, the first she heard of the story was on Instagram, and see her son laying there bleeding out?
Right.
That is so fucked up, man.
That's what they said about the Kobe situation. That's what they that happens a lot, where it's like the news will break the story before the family even knows, and the family finds out on the news.
It's sick, man. Like, me being a human being that has lost, and I don't, this is not a badge of honor. This has really fucked me up, man. And I've been in therapy for this. years of my life. I've lost a lot of people in my life tragically to murder, a lot of people, man. And it's not cool. It's not a cool situation. And I think of the effects it had on me, and I couldn't imagine if it was on the internet and lived forever.
Where do you see that lack of empathy and the desensitized nature that people are living in right now? Where do you feel like that started?
Man, I feel like it started a long, long, long time ago. And I feel like the things that to me, life is all about balance. And I talk about that a lot. I talk about that a lot off camera because I'm not against gangster rap or reality rap or whatever you call it. But I feel like when the record labels purposely, you know, and they're gonna say it wouldn't purposely, but it has to be purposely because they're picking the people they choosing to promote. And it's odd that they all rap about the same thing, the majority of them. Like, I feel like if it was more balanced, you would give people an option. Meaning, like in the NWA era, they were gangster rappers. They rapped about a lot of the same things. But it was also, you know, other artists and other rappers that were on a completely different vibe that you could choose
Yeah,
to listen
Public
to.
Enemy. You had, so
De La Soul.
Exactly.
It was like it was way more options, bro. The same thing with female rap. Back in the 80s, it was some females that was talking raunchy, but then you had Queen Latifah, you had MC Light, you had a bunch of other options. Now it's like,
Mommy Love.
Yeah, it's like stuff is so one-sided to the negative. And the thing is, the human brain works how it works. What do we think gonna happen if you keep forcing that and you keep feeding that to yourself? And people as human beings have to take a better responsibility to create some balance in their life and watch what they feed themselves. Like, you can't just feed yourself death, murder, kill, violence, disrespect, and think that energy ain't gonna follow you around, man. It's like a real deep thing. To me, it's about balance. I'm not telling people to not enjoy a gangster rapper's music, but have some balance to yourself, and then the thing that I'm telling you is, as Black people, and now I'm getting a little bit more detailed on it, we just got to respect each other's lives. We gotta realize that we are valuable, and that's part of the system's problem. And I'm going to always point out Black people's faults, but I'm going to also point out what we were helped to believe. The system has helped Black people believe that we're not valuable. Our lives aren't worth anything. So that happens. That is a part of it. When people like, shit, whatever, just another dead NIGGA, like, you got to realize he's a human. We have to realize we're humans. Stop dehumanizing each other. That man was somebody's son, obviously, because he couldn't get there without being somebody's son. That man is somebody's cousin. That man might be somebody's father. That might be somebody's grandbaby. That might be a lot of things to people. And over some foolishness, he's dead. And that effect is long term. And that's what I'm trying to tell people. That death is long term, man. I know children that fathers were taken away from them tragically that never get over it.
Yeah.
They never get over it. But I also think part of the problem now is going into 2022. Everybody wants to be their own personal ethos. There's no sense of community anymore. There's no sense of community. Like, when you have a sense of community, you just have more sympathy for other people because you realize that they're basically just like you. They're just another human being trying to figure out this life thing, and you have respect for it. And as Black men, we just got to do a much better job of respecting each other. We're never going to get respect as Black men until they start with each other, man. That's just the truth. Nobody, not our women, not other races, nobody gonna give us respect until we do it to each other. Like, that's just the truth. And I get it, because a lot of people make fun of, like, the people that be like calling the other men's kings. But I get it. Like, I get it, because guess what? Even if you plan, it's a psychological effect when you call a man a king. After he hear that shit 20 times in a day, that might affect his thought process. That might affect how he carry himself. Because being called a thug and being called a nigga and women demeaning you, that obviously has had an effect.
Absolutely. I'll share something, about myself, and Flawed, can definitely attest to this because he's known me since we were like probably 15 or something like that. But I struggled with that a lot growing up because remember I told you the other day on the phone, I told you that it took me a long time to realize that something that I thought was a compliment was actually an insult.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that thing was when people would tell me, "Oh, you speak so well," as a kid growing up. I always thought that was a compliment. Oh, you're smart, you're eloquent, etc. But what that really meant was we don't expect a black person to be able to speak like you do.
Exactly. It was, what's the phrase? It was a backhanded compliment.
A backhanded compliment, exactly. So I feel like a lot of my teenage years specifically, when I did not have to be in certain environments at all, I did it completely by choice. I didn't have to be around certain people. I did it completely by choice. And a lot of that was because at the time, we were one of not that many black families that lived where we lived in Oakland County, right? So, for one, my sense of connection to the black community were with people that still lived in the hood for the most part. It was people from church, which is where I met Flaw, and people from my job.
Okay.
So, you see what I'm saying? So those were people that I knew, like, who all lived in the hood still and were doing what I would consider to be black shit. You know what I'm saying? And so my connection, like I said, to my blackness, if you will, was to be in the hood. So, but I felt like I had to do that because if I didn't, and if I just like hung out in Novi or if I hung out in Farmington or, whatever, then I like almost like a sellout in a way.
I get it. Yeah.
I couldn't help that my parents moved me there. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I would almost feel like a sellout. So I would feel like I had to be a little bit extra. You know what I'm saying? And I might fight a little bit more than I would have otherwise. Cause you know me, I'm a cool, pretty laid back dude, but like I would feel like I'd have to turn it up because this is what niggas do. It's almost that Tupac quote when he was like, I'm gonna buy a Benz because that's what niggas do. I'm gonna smoke weed because that's what niggas do. I'm gonna drink Hennessy because that's what niggas do. I had that mindset at 16. You know what I'm saying? So the reason I say all of that, one is just to kind of show like how it can psychologically affect you. And then two, because I was in dangerous situations I could have easily avoided. You know what I mean? But two, how much of that do you think affects celebrities? And the reason I say that is because now I don't know specifically in Houston where these dudes were located, but Dice Game, things like that, that sounds like hood settings you know what I mean?
Well, that's the part that's crazy.
Celebrities feel like they got to be in the hood still. And I don't mean their hood. I mean
just in the hood in general. Because it is, but just to answer your question, after further information has been leaked, the bowling alley was supposedly in a really good neighborhood, actually. Okay. But I think celebrities do struggle with that because they come from a place and a lot of their friends are still in that place. And you just don't be wanting people to think you forgot them or you turned your back on them. And unfortunately, I think celebrities could go about that a better way, meaning like, I don't have to come to where y'all at to prove I haven't turned my back. I can maybe rent a hall or I could go somewhere that I know I'm comfortable at and invite y'all. And we can still break bread, have fun, and let y'all be in my environment. But to keep going back to a dangerous environment that may be filled with jealousy, that may be filled with unsavory characters that's still trying to get out, that has misguided anger, that's just not the best decision making, because what ends up happening is a lot of times these artists don't necessarily get professional security. They just go get the shooter from their hood, and their shooter isn't trained, and their shooter is probably hot-headed, and that probably actually escalate a lot of these situations, because you really need security to de-escalate things, to calm things down, and shoot as a last resort, not the first resort.
And especially if you're, just to touch on exactly what you're saying, especially if you're a guy who actually was one of them dudes like that. You know what I'm saying? Like if you was really in the streets getting busy like that, and all your homies was too, you can't use them as security because they're not going to calm you down and you're not going to calm them down.
at
Perfect
all.
example of that, is I'm not sure if you're familiar with battle rap really like that, but Sue Surf. He's a
Yeah.
battle rapper and he's got some, some mainstream success as well as far as like features and stuff like that. So he's doing his music thing too.
Yeah, I'm
But
very
he just
familiar
got
with
caught
battle
up.
rap and surf. Yeah.
Yeah. But he just got caught up on a Rico in Jersey being part of the Rolling 60 Crips. And that got him for a shooting that he did back in 2018. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like things that you do back in those times will catch back up, especially if you're still going to be in that circle and you and everyone around you was active.
Yeah, that's
You know
like
what I
the
mean? Like, you have to have security at that point. Like,
that's like the King Von situation, you know?
right.
If he would have had some professional security, he might not have put himself in that situation. Things might have been completely different. But he was a young man that had certain habits and maybe a temper and handled things a certain way. And he may have never broken those habits. And stuff went left. Stuff went left, man. And unfortunately, he lost his life. And it's like, me being in my 30s, my late 30s, it's like I done seen this so much. It comes a point to where, what are you proving? Like, even when I see young guys in all their videos with pistols, and it's like, bro, people been carrying pistols forever. Like, what are you really proving? Like, who are you prove? That doesn't even make you tough. It takes 7 pounds of pressure to pull the trigger. That doesn't make you tough.
I think that might be a conflict of the generations, because I think young people do think that makes them tough if they carry a gun and they ain't scared to use it. You know
Oh,
what I'm
okay.
saying? I think so. Like, I mean, I totally disagree with that. I'm with you. Like, let's go to the shoulders. You know what I'm saying? But if somebody, I think today, like, because, and here's where I think that mentality at least comes from. And, you tell me what you think, but I think is mostly because, again, not everybody has the quote unquote, I don't even like to say it like this, but this is how people describe it. Everybody who doesn't have the heart to kill. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if you do, then that makes you that much colder and that much harder versus somebody who might hesitate on squeezing. So I
This the
think that's
part,
where the tough mentality comes from in that.
and it's the part I'm gonna tell people though. Like, unfortunately, dealing with people that have allegedly killed other people, and me knowing people that have allegedly killed other people, that's not as cut and dry as people make it seem. Like, oh, you
It's
gotta have a heart
definitely
to
not.
kill.
It's
No, you don't.
definitely not.
You just gotta pull the trigger. Like, at the end of the day, you just gotta blank out emotionally and pull the trigger. Like, it doesn't make you ruthless. It doesn't make you the toughest person. It doesn't make you anything. Because to be honest, a lot of people kill out of fear. They be
Right.
scared.
Right. That right there.
Like,
Exactly. Cause yeah, exactly. Like that's, and I know people who, rest in peace, my man Marcus. He got shot in the back of the head walking down the street. You know what I'm saying? So like, that's not tough. There's nothing. That's very cowardly.
yeah,
He
like,
didn't see it coming.
how tough is it to drive by somebody's house in a moving car and just shoot a bunch of random bullets? Like, is that really tough?
Exactly. R.I.P. my friend Monet. That's what happened to her. You know what I'm saying? Drive by. You know what I'm saying? Somebody was allegedly aiming at somebody else and she got hit. Innocent. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is crazy stuff. Like, and then again, going back to the Takeoff situation, that's what they said with him. He wasn't involved in any altercation that happened at the bowling alley or anywhere else. Like, he was just there,
Exactly.
and now he's not here.
Man, that's kind of the point I'm making, is I think people need to humanize each other again and realize this isn't a dream. He gets no do-over. Takeoff is gone. He's transitioned. He gets no do-over, man.
That's
Now
it.
everybody is left to pick up the pieces. All his family, all his loved ones, all his fans, everybody's left to pick up the pieces, man. I think so deeply about even like how Offset might be feeling, to where his family member gets killed in the middle of a little tiff they was going through. And now it's like, damn, did you even get a chance to like when you're in that situation, you just pray that like Nick, I know he know I loved him. I hope he knew that. Like, even though we wouldn't see him eye to eye at that moment, I hope he know how I feel about him as a human being. And I ain't talking about Takeoff. I'm talking about whatever his government name is.
Right.
Like, I hope he know that I love him to death. You know, I had a cousin that was murdered tragically, and I remember we had gotten to a little, it wasn't even nothing serious, but we had just gotten to like a little whatever, like, man, you owe me some money, give me my money. And then later that day, he got killed. And it just be making you think like, dang, man, like,
if I'd have handled that differently.
Yeah, like, or even different than that. Like, bro, I hope you know I love you. Like, that was just that moment. Like, we were going through something that moment, but you know I loved you, bro. Like, if I would have, you know, that's the thing. Like, we never know when your last time talking to somebody might be.
Yeah. That's real. That's real.
You know, man, I done dealt with it so much, and it touched you on such a deep level, man. You know, like my mother died on December 8th, and I remember like talking to her and wanting to like have a longer conversation, but I was a little tired. Like, oh, I'll talk to her tomorrow. Wasn't able to do it.
Yeah.
You know, all I'm saying is we have to recognize that we're human, that everybody's human again, and feel that internal spirit that are put in you from being a human being. And I don't want to make it a religious thing because everybody could be different religions and different creeds. So I'm not going to name no one thing. But what I'm saying is we have to connect back to the fact that we're all living, breathing organisms sharing this planet, and just have respect for each other all around. And that's kind of what I'm saying. It's a microcosm of so many things, like even piggybacking on Kanye. That's kind of what he was kind of saying somewhat. It's like, can't like, why nobody respect black people? But I'm gonna turn around and tell black people we gotta respect ourselves. We have to move past all the systems and traps that was put in place to hold us down, and we still got to put our head down and move forward and just start having more community amongst each other and love, man. Like loving people, like just love people, man, and care about people. And imagine before you do some ill stuff, what if that was my brother? Or what if that was my sister? Or what if that was my mother? What if that was my father? And somebody was about to do what I'm about to, like, how would you feel? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not silly, man. I understand people involve themselves in certain lifestyles that have certain consequences. But I'm just talking about like the random shootings that's not attached to a gang war, that's not attached to no long-standing beef, just the random shit, man. Just have more respect for each other, man. You know, and bring some balance in your life. Don't listen to gangster rap every day, all day. Play some other stuff, man. Play some any other stuff. But again, I don't even like going there, man, because why is gangster rap really the only thing that's promoted?
This is what I wanted to ask you. Because you said you are a psychology major, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, from the majority of studies that I've come across and that I've read and things like that, they say that video games, like violent video games, do not translate to actual acts, right? Like if somebody does an actual act of violence, like, you know, like something out of the ordinary, not like, you know what I mean, but like just a school shooting or just something wild like that.
Absolutely.
That those two things are not necessarily tied together, right?
I can see that, but one thing I tell you,
So this is where I was going, right? What do you think about other forms of entertainment, like movies, like music, things like that? Do you think that has more of an influence because it's more of like a daily piece of your life, or like why would you
I
think
don't think
more?
I
And
don't I don't think it has more of an influence. How I explain it all is this. One, let me say this. Being in that field or just studying that field, you got to understand that these video game companies, they hire people to put these things out. So every study you read, you got to see where the source, where it was funded from, because everybody can fund something to make it look like it's good on their side. Meaning, like, if I'm a video game company, I don't want nobody saying that somehow this relates to more mass shootings, because then I'm gonna get sued.
mm-hmm.
So that's all on that regard. But to answer your question, it's kind of like, I does think it has a slight influence, music, television, all that, because of the word we used earlier. Whether it provokes you to do violent things, it certainly desensitizes you. And if you're desensitized to something, it doesn't give you the same emotional grief to not want to do it or to not want to see it. You know, let me put it this way. Like, if I'm desensitized to murder, right?
Mm-hmm.
I may not go out there and kill somebody, but I might have two homeboys that's talking about killing somebody. And I'm just ho-hum about it. Like, oh, handle y'all business.
Yeah.
Instead of like caught off guard, like, man, what is y'all talking about doing? Like, that's crazy. Like, why would y'all do that?
Right.
So no, it definitely changes the psyche when it comes to violence and murder.
Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense for sure. So speaking of just, people being insensitive, people not respecting other people, and the same shit that we've been talking about, Twitter, acquired by Elon Musk, says that he is he's the free speech guy, so he's gonna let it rock. And 501% increase of the N-word that day. What are your thoughts?
Man, my thoughts is this simple. One, I agree with Elon Musk that people had a right to have freedom of speech. I'm just being honest.
I do too, actually.
But also it kind of makes me hope people see what Kanye West and other people are kind of saying from a different lens, which is, why does everybody hate black people? Like,
real quick.
I don't know.
Not to interrupt you, but I really want to make this point because I want to hear what your thought is on this. A lot of those same, specifically because you brought Kanye up. Now, remember, my whole pushback the other day when we was talking was, is it a white thing or is it a Jewish thing, right? And the reason the reason I say that is because all those same people who were saying the N-word on Twitter all proudly the day that Elon took over and everything, they were saying the K word, that's a slur for Jewish people as well. Just as
I know what you're talking about. I know what words you're talking about.
Right.
But what was
YouTube?
I would like to see what the rise in that number was. And I wasn't saying that was Jewish people saying it. I'm just saying that
right. But what I'm saying though is, with Kanye's message being so focused on Jewish people, I feel like that's where it's going to get lost, because people are going to be able to point to examples and be like, yeah, but look, like, you see what I'm saying? So
I get what you're saying.
If he was like, yo, this white supremacist shit going on in business is fucking us all over, people would digest that more, because that's way more.
I agree with that. Now, I actually agree with that. Like, he should have made it more broader and not specific. Or he should have been very detailed in the specific Jewish people he was talking about, which doesn't make it about like all Jewish people, because you and me being both know that Jewish people come in different races. Right. But just back to the whole N-word thing, I mean, that's not surprising, because there's so many racists and bigots who live behind a computer that can't wait to call you a nigger. I don't know if you ever played video games online. That's one of the most racist things I've ever been. Like, that's just what it is, man. Like, it just is what it is. But the point that I be making is, like, where's the outcry on that though? And now I'm gonna be very specific. What non-black person has made a fuss about it being a 500% increase?
The only one I've seen publicly so far is Andrew Schultz. That's the only one who said anything. But outside of that, just people on Twitter, like not anybody known, I would say.
But that's kind of the point I'm making. Like, why isn't anybody saying, "Oh, let's shut down Twitter"?
Right. Yeah, and the thing is, like you said, I actually agree also that it should be complete freedom of speech outside of direct threats of violence, doxing, slander.
What I'm saying is the hypocrisy of that is y'all just shut down so many of Kanye businesses because of his freedom of speech.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that. What I'm saying is I'd rather it be this way for two reasons. One, because I want to be able to say whatever I want to say, and I don't want what I'm saying, that shit restricted either. And then two, because I want to know who the people are that hate me. You know what I'm saying? Like I always say, if my neighbor's racist, I want the Confederate flag to be flying from his front door. I need to know that shit so I know.
This is the part, exactly, and this is the part that I'm saying. Like,
I might think you cool. You invite me over for dinner, and then the Klan hood's in your living room, and that's how I find out. Now it's too late. I'm in your house. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, be loud and proud about it, so I know who you are.
Absolutely, and like I said, I want people to have freedom of speech. I want people to have freedom of speech. I also just want things to be standard across the board. Yep. Meaning, like, I don't want one group of people to get preferential treatment. And all I'm saying is,
now let me ask you this, because I think this was an interesting point that I heard somebody bring up in regards to why nothing really happened after the slavery is a choice comment, but stuff happened after this. It's based on essentially black people not being on one accord about what we demanded out of Kanye at that time. And what I mean is, right after that was when he was making the album in Wyoming, and every weekend we heard about a different black celebrity going up there to go kick it with him for the weekend. Okay. So that kind of shows that, at least, to maybe white people who don't necessarily know that many black people or, whatever like that.
Okay.
That's kind of showing, like, at least on a mainstream level, all black people they're okay.
I push this back then.
Whereas Jewish people, no, they were all on one accord immediately. Like, no, we're not fucking with it.
I get it. And I get this pushback though. That's cool. But they started attacking people that retweeted what Kanye said, that liked what he said, that reposted what he said. And I can literally remember non-black people liking, reposting, and sharing what Kanye said. So right. At that point,
now it's the same thing.
Now it's the same exact thing.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
It didn't stay confined
on one accord though. With that, like, because that shit shouldn't have happened afterwards. He shouldn't have been able to go to Wyoming and have all the homies just come up and be like, "Yeah, we still fuck with Kanye. It's all good." Like, and not.
Well, I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why I slightly disagree with you.
But go ahead.
I slightly disagree with you in this sense, because what if the people that went to see him also agreed that slavery was a choice? Like, I can't tell nobody not to agree with somebody, but and I can't tell nobody.
That kind of fucks it up if we want some action to happen when Kanye says some shit like that.
No, I'm gonna tell you why I don't. I'm gonna tell you why it doesn't. I'm gonna tell you why it doesn't. And this the part that's crazy. Think about how many. I'm gonna take this off of black people then. Why people don't get banned? Why? You know how many liberals I've heard call Arab people terrorists and make it a broad thing?
Mm-hmm.
Middle Easterns are terrorists. Yeah, why aren't they losing their careers?
I guess because I guess my my devil's advocate answer for that would be because that doesn't necessarily, it helps the media narrative for Middle Eastern people to be demonized, basically. For the same reason it helps the narrative for them to demonize Hispanic people, but they don't demonize Canadian people who overstay their welcome. You know what I'm saying? because it
Well,
helps with
that's
the
kind
narrative.
of,
And when I say the media narrative, and this is getting slightly into
but,
politics a little
but
bit, but we know the media and the government work together. So if the government wants to go to war somewhere and we want to go to war in
I'm
the
gonna
Middle
ask you
East,
this.
it's a lot easier to get the public on your side to go into that war if the majority of the public doesn't trust Middle Eastern.
Let me ask you this,
Or if we're
because
going to Venezuela and we don't fuck with Hispanic people, shit, go down there. It's cool. Like, you get what I'm saying? I think it's a
like
little more on that wave.
you're a pretty real-rounded person. And it's the point I'm making. When you go and you do some digging on who own a lot of these media companies, what ethnicity is a lot of them? Or what? Okay, and what creed are a lot of them? Like a lot of them are Jewish. So the point that I'm making is the people that control the narrative, of course, they don't want to be demeaned. But the point that I'm making is if a lot of white and Jewish people control the media, why do they allow other races to be demonized and demeaned if they understand that it's hurtful?
Again, I would argue that that comes down more so as to a financial thing due to
I still don't make it right.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm not excusing it in any way. I'm just saying I think it's more
I guess what I'm saying, that's not a tad bit hypocritical. That's kind of like, I don't know if you saw the clip of Charlemagne the Guy having Leor Cohen on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And Leor was talking about like all this negativity and da 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 da. And then Charlemagne was like, but you sign rappers who promote that. You don't think that's hypocritical? And you know what Leor said?
Nah, what'd he say?
I gotta feed my family.
Yeah, see, that's crazy to me at this point. Like, you know,
the point I'm making, you got to understand, this is the point I'm thinking people don't get about Kanye West. And he misspoke grouping the whole group together, right? But Kanye West started off as what, Shane? A musician, right?
Yep.
He probably had dealings with Leor Cohen.
Oh, I'm sure.
So he had dealings with a Jewish person who took advantage of black people, and he admitted it.
Yes. I agree. My method of that, though, is to call out Leor.
Now that's where I agree on you. He should have just made it specific.
You get what I'm saying? Make it
just name names.
Just name
names. Because when you name names,
Best Buy, he don't have nothing to do with that. You know what I'm saying?
Like when you name, but then it's the point I'll be asking you too, though.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just a question I propose to my Jewish brothers and sisters out there. If you're not calling out the people in your community that are doing these things, are you complicit?
I guess a question that could be asked in response to that is, do we require that of every minority community, I guess?
Minorities not in power.
Okay. So the power dynamic is what?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Now, what do you think it's? Again, do you think it's just skewed and it's like it's an?
I'm gonna tell you what it is, man. I'm gonna be honest.
Like for example, right? Like in a completely different way, black men are overrepresented in prison, right? Like we're 80% or whatever the fuck of the prison population, but we're only like 7 or 8% of the actual population. So we're clearly overrepresented in prison. So like if you take that example, is there just an overrepresentation in some of these, industries, which
I'm gonna tell you why I disagree, because to me, everything that there's an overrepresentation to is by design. It has to be by design. You can't tell me that black people will be overrepresented in prison if they wouldn't put in communities that made them choose criminal activities above starving. Mm-hmm. Anytime, this is just my personal belief, the world is about balance. like the universe. Like literally the universal law is about balance. That's why you have birth and you have death. Anytime something is out of whack, and it's a hugely out of whack, I can guarantee you it's some human manipulation there. I can guarantee you that.
I don't really have nothing to argue with that one. So I think on that note, we could probably close out, man. You got any last words you want to leave for the people?
No, man, I just want everybody to just love each other, man, and try to get along and get an understanding with other human beings from different races, different religions. Let's just do a better job of loving each other and just trying to get along. I'm not saying we got to kumbaya and all that, but let's just try to get a better understanding and understand that we're all human. Like we're all human at the end of the day. And if we treat each other as such, I think that'll be a positive step in restoring a lot of the malice and division that's going on in the world.
There you have it, man. This has been OTI, Open to Interpretation, right here on the Ethos Media Network. Make sure you like, you share, you subscribe, and we'll catch y'all next week. Peace.